film at South by Southwest, Ghost Stories by Andrew Nyman and I just saw it, Jeremy Dyson, which is based on a play? How in the hell was this on stage?
It's gotta be like a very interesting 4-act structure, to be sure.
It's Ghost Stories, right? And you watch this film. This is Ben, by the way.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, you might know him from The Gathering. But anyway, this starts off as like an anthology horror film.
Yeah, it has a great framing structure of basically being that guy that doesn't believe in anything and just wants, you know, make a TV show to expose everything, and then pretty much gets told, you're fucking wrong. Here's why you're wrong. Go find these cases and prove me right.
Yeah, this actor's like, he's like a skeptic. His whole life is built around that idea of like proving the paranormal is wrong. And his idol, who is this guy who mysteriously disappeared in the height of his career, like he gets a message from him saying, I'm still alive, and I didn't get sucked into some alternate dimension or got murdered by the mob. Come see me. And he does as much. And he goes, here's a file of 3 cases that you will never believe, but are real. The supernatural is real. We're full of shit. Everything we do is full of shit. Like, all that skeptical stuff, it's nonsense. Now, you would think, me, being a bit of a skeptic,
never
would have been like, fuck you, movie, fuck you. But no, I love horror movies, it doesn't matter. So they go into it, and it feels like kind of a traditional manner. It feels like a traditional setup.
It does, and I like how it, you know, I felt like when it started off, the second he leaves from his, you know, I guess I want to say mentor guy, there's literally like a few shots that go, something may be paranormal even around him, something's fucked up. And you kind of expect that from one of these movies. And definitely, you get the pacing you kind of expected at first, where it's like, okay, he's going to go talk to this guy, it's going to be a creepy event, let's see what happens.
Yeah, you're waiting for boom!
Exactly.
And it starts off on that way of like, oh, well, now we're going into these little segments of like him investigating these missions, but what it ends up turning into is kind of a very meta, but not in the way you expect horror film. I mean, this is art horror, to be sure, like, but not in a way that is boring. I know that's like, I'm trying to sell horror fans on this right now.
It does a good job of building tension from each scene to each scene, from each story to each story. I was saying to Chris even just before we recorded or earlier that the second story, I almost found the lead up to it more just perfect horror, where it's just everything seems wrong with the world as he's walking into even just finding out what happened to this person.
Well, and that's kind of the key there, is finding that there are all these problems with the world itself. Like, what is going on here? Why are things not the way they should be? Why are little things wrong? You know, almost in a Silent Hill sort of way, if you will. And the movie does have a bigger picture involved. When you get to finally the third act, the film makes clear this is not your traditional horror film. This is something new. And it helps by Martin Freeman, of course, from Sherlock and most recently in Black Panther, who's a very strong character in this film, who ends up being much more of a pertinent pivot character in the bigger weirdo, almost Lynchian plot.
He comes in the third act, I'd say, of the 4-act structure that we were talking about, the third story.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, his story, he literally just oozes his charisma the whole entire scene, or the whole entire storytelling that he's in. It really is.
You want some of my charisma? Here you go. You want some of it? Here.
And now I'm better on camera. You're welcome.
There you go. It's all my charisma. I got it all over it.
But no, literally just, I think his story is the only story where throughout it's actually got narration. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, pretty much.
The other ones are basically, they start telling the story and it goes into basically like a mini horror movie.
Can I say that the actor that's in the second segment here, which is from, and I'm blanking on his name right now, it is Alex Lothar from The End of the Fucking World, the show on Netflix.
That's what he's in.
Is so good in this.
As I said, his segment is the one that even just the build up to it freaked me out a little bit, and that's because he just sells it. He really does seem like that guy who's just like, everyone's watching, even the things you can't see are watching, and they're everywhere. And then his actually really surprised me, because it really felt like the most open to jump scares throughout his whole story, and they really did a good job of just they're showing more than they're surprising you or telling you what's happening. You actually get to see a lot of the scary, terrible things that happen in this movie.
Ah, Ghost Cat!
I feel like Monkey's too cute to really terrify.
Don't.
You're welcome, editors.
Anyway,
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Here's some Kitty Belly for you. The upshot is, I think this is a really innovative film that I'm still baffled as how it was ever a stage show. I just cannot figure it out.
And I did, high school theater, and I've seen lots of plays because of that in college. I can't figure out that structure. Yeah, I feel like all the cast does a really good job. A lot of them are very much sequestered to basically just acting off themselves and off what happens by a creepy ghost or a monster. But I really enjoyed every bit of it.
I did too. It takes you to places you don't expect. The third act is really what ultimately I think sold me on it as what was already a decent horror movie into being more than just your standard horror film. And the type of film that, like, I feel like your average not a horror fan is going to get into.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, if you're one of those people who likes a good, slasher horror, it's not going to necessarily be yours, but it might bridge that gap for you, where you might see it and go like, okay, this is showing a lot more of horror and a lot more building tension like a slasher does. A good slasher, at least, builds a lot of tension throughout.
And that is Ghost Stories. It should be available, I imagine, pretty soon.
Oh, it's got enough names behind it for sure. It should be coming out.
Yeah, keep your eyes on it. It's fascinating. In fact, I was reading stuff where it sounds like they're already thinking about the idea of doing a follow-up for it, which would be
great.
Fascinating to see where they would go next, because it really comes to a point you're like, how would you go forward with this?
It's got an ending for sure.
It definitely does, but it feels like the universe they've created has the option, and they do create a universe
definitely
for more options. So, yeah, Ghost Stories, I actually give it a super high rating.
Yeah, I would love to see it again. I'm a major horror chicken, but I really adored this movie throughout.
Major horror chicken attack! Whoa!
Just feels dead inside when you look at the eyes. I'm so sorry, Monkey. I'm so sorry.
That's what happens when you fuck with Ghost Kitty.